Yeah, recording.
Bill Stewart. All right, everyone. Thanks everyone for joining in. It's October 20th.
John, you're muted.
I don't know. I got muted, but I'll take it. All right, I'm back. Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, I should say. It's October 21st, 7:01 p.m. Thank you all for joining the Finance Committee meeting for the town of Rockland. Just going to go over a couple of things. First of all, notice to all attendees and any audience members that this is a recorded meeting. It will be posted on WRPS. Meeting minutes will also be available on the Rockland Town website for you to review. For our agenda tonight, basically we're going to focus on the fall special town meeting, review and vote on the special town meeting warrant as presented. We've got Doug on the phone here with Biz. They're going to help walk us through it, answer any questions that we have, and hopefully we should be able to get to a vote this evening and get that posted up so we can get the warrant out to the residents. In addition, and I did send this out, I noticed it came in later, so that's my fault if I didn't get it out in time. But if you have not had the opportunity, there is a kind of State of the Union, quarterly review of where we stand in terms of our revenue estimates. That's something that we'd asked for from the town. This was nice enough to kind of pull that together. It's fairly detailed. I'm sure Biz and her infinite wisdom will be able to kind of summarize it and break it down into something that's easy to digest for us. But it's got a lot of great information in it, just thumbing through it. So this seems like it's exactly what we need, and great sharing of information from the town. We appreciate it. So we'll go over those two things. Also, Julie had sent out some meeting minutes. We'll check on those, and then we'll touch on anything else in kind of our open agenda section. So, any questions? All right. With that, and Doug, I can share my screen. Like, that. You guys all see that?
Yep.
So this is just, we'll go through the projections, and the last time we met, we'd asked the town to come back with a little bit more of a, or just take a second look at how they wanted to break up the additional funds that are due to come in from the state. And this is, I believe, been done, and Doug can walk us through it. So Doug, what should we go over from here?
Sure, thanks, John. So if you want to just scroll down to the bottom, this was the previous, yeah, right there. So that column in the middle in red, that was all of our COVID cuts. And then the column on the right were all the restorations we had planned on doing before this latest change from the state that we talked about at our last meeting. So you just see down at the bottom there, the $122,865 in red. That's the reduction in our charter tuition reimbursement that we have to scale back our restorations at the special town meeting to only restore a net $890,044. And when we spoke at your last meeting, what Biz and I had presented was what we presented was to not restore $6,000 in the town meeting elections line, because the town clerk's office was able to get a grant which could offset that amount, and then to take the remaining $30,000 from the Parks Department, and the remainder, the other $86,000 would come from the schools based on the 70-30 split. So the main point from our side was the direction, or the suggestion you guys gave us was, don't hit the Parks Department so hard. Let's see if we can look at kind of spreading it out amongst a number of other departments, particularly dues and meetings and those types of things. So Biz and I went back the next morning. We met with departments, and I think we have a really good solution. We did what I think is exactly what you're asking. So if you want to go to the next page, page 2 of this PDF, this is the new summary of what we're doing. And again, I just want to stress, these are not cuts year to year, this is generally just a reduction of the amount that we're restoring. So what we're looking at here is not restoring $2,000 in the accounting department for dues and seminars, $850 in assessing for legal services, $850 for dues and seminars in the assessing department, $3,000 for dues and meetings in the treasurer's office, $1,500 for dues, meetings, and travel in the tax collector's office. I'm going to come back to the town clerk salary in a minute. I'll come back to that one. The $6,000, which I just mentioned a moment ago, that's the same from our original plan. We still need the $6,000, but the clerk's office was able to get that from a state grant. $1,000 from town reports and warrants. We can still accommodate printing enough without that extra $1,000 being restored. $86,000 is the school department 70% share. And then the park department would go down from a $30,000 hit to only an $11,000 hit, which is essentially what they've already absorbed, this summer by not hiring those part-time people. So those are all the items. Now going back to that town clerk item, the news there is that our longstanding town clerk, Donna Shortall, is going to be retiring. If you haven't heard that already, she's going to be retiring effective December 31st. So, and the next town election is not until April, as you all know. So the idea here is once she retires on December 31st, we're not going to have to pay her salary. So we have some savings there related to not having to pay her salary. So it's not a reduction in her, in her salary. This is really just a temporary savings. It's not the full amount that we're going to realize in savings because emergencies might happen. We may have to bring somebody in on an emergency basis to help out with a short-staffed department. But I feel confident we can count on this much. So this, to me, I think it kind of accomplishes the goals you guys asked us to relook at, spreading it out a little bit. We had a selectmen's meeting last night. I presented this to the Board of Selectmen. They fully endorsed it and voted to support it. All the following pages is all, and again, what these numbers reflect is an amount that we're not restoring compared to what we previously planned on restoring. So all the following pages in the spreadsheet, I highlighted in red these line items so you see the actual amount that we are now restoring, which is this much less than the previous version I had showed you.
So Doug, on the town clerk's salary,
Yeah.
is that number, are we able to get that number net of anything that we would owe her, like for example, sick leave or vacation time or anything that she has coming to her in her contract?
Biz, you can correct
Who are
me.
you
but I
talking
think-
about in the town clerk?
What's
The
that?
Donna?
Donna, yeah,
Yeah.
Donna's retiring.
Okay.
Biz, you can jump in and correct me, but I think as an elected official, those types of things don't apply. Is that right? Or is it just covered from somewhere else? Can you jump in and help me out? Hang on, she's muted. I gotta ask her to unmute.
Yeah, but town officials, elected officials, you're right. I don't think they have sick leave.
Here we go. Biz is back, I think.
Yeah, town officials do not, because they're elected officials do not have vacation or sick time. So there's no buyback issues there. And you're absolutely right, Bob.
All right, so that's a solid number then.
Yeah.
Correct.
Sad to see her go though. She's done a great
Yeah.
job over there, so.
If somebody's covering for her in the office,
Mhm.
do they get bumped up to her level
Yes.
for what she's doing because they're on the union side of things, or do they?
Yeah, I can speak to that. That's a good question. So the assistant town clerk by law, has all the authority of the town clerk in the town clerk's absence. And that's part of the job is to, step up when the town clerk isn't able, for whatever reason, to do his or her job. The assistant town clerk position is a union position, so it cannot automatically get that higher salary because there's a whole collective bargaining agreement involved. So, theoretically, potentially, if we had discussions with that person and then I negotiated with the union, there could be a side letter or something, but I haven't even thought about having those discussions because you know, and again, speaking from someone who was a longtime assistant town manager before I became town administrator, that's part of the job, is to always be ready in case you have to step up, and it's going to be for a relatively short time, and it's also going to be after the election, after town meeting. So it should be a relatively quiet period up until the next election in April.
Okay, thank you.
Good stuff. So Doug, I can roll through this. I think you said you highlighted in red where you made some changes, so I'll just,
Yeah.
looks like we got 1,000 here.
Yep, so exactly. So that's for that one in accounting, you can see originally, if you just stop there for 1 minute, I won't go through each one, but you'll see originally it was going to be, you know, we had cut 3,000. And then if you go back, if you think back to that previous sheet we were just looking at a minute ago, we're doing 2,000 less. So that's why it's a $1,000 restoration. And I just highlighted all those numbers in red throughout. You know, the delta between the cut and the restoration is the amount that we're not restoring on that previous page.
I saw the mention of travel. So is that part of the reason why we can get after some of these dues and meetings, is that there's no travel expenses associated with them?
I mean, there's, you know, in some cases, some of these meetings are happening virtually by Zoom. In other cases, they're not happening at all. So sort of a combination. You know,
There's
like
the town clerk with 10,000.
right. You know, the big school at UMass, you know, which is what, you know, accountants and, you know, a number of the other financial department heads go to. I imagine those are not even happening right now, but other things are happening virtually.
And this 5,000 here for the personnel under town meeting and elections, that's the one you said she's getting reimbursement for?
So originally we were going to be adding 11,000 into that line, but we reduced it by 6,000 because she's able to get 6,000 from a grant.
Okay, that's good stuff.
Right.
We love the grants.
Yeah.
All right.
We certainly do.
Reports here. This one here is red, but you get nothing in it. Does that just mean there's nothing, no change to that?
Let me just see.
Town reports and warrants.
Yeah, give me 1 second here.
It's $1,000, Doug. Isn't that
Okay.
what we were doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think we can see the whole screen there. John might be part of the,
If you make it smaller, it might be
yeah.
easier.
Looks blank to me.
Yeah.
Be me.
Yeah, I would just go with what I had presented. So.
Yeah, okay.
Funny.
All right, I'll just roll through the rest of this. Any questions? I'll highlight anything that's in red. I'll zoom in on.
Oh, you know what it was? I can explain that last one.
Yep.
I think previously, there's just so many iterations of this.
Mhm.
Previously, we were only going to restore $1,000 of that amount in the town report line. So now what I was explaining was I'm taking away that $1,000 restoration to restore none. So that's why it's, you know, we're talking about one version to the next. So,
Mhm.
so what you're looking at here is correct.
This is where they're picking up the money for the park department. So they're gonna have 4,000 left in that line item is what you're saying for this spring cleanup time.
Yep, for any seasonal help. And then in addition, if you go back to that one, John, we're keeping the restorations of all those other lines for, you know, maintenance, you know, rail trail, stadium, supply, whatever, you know, all that will still be restored. Which is a good
And if
thing.
some of those don't come to, like he said, the placeholder there was for the parks, you know, for the stadium maintenance, he had 5,000 in that account. If that doesn't get used, I mean, has the park department been able to turn back money at the end of the year?
You know, that's one thing I'm proud of. I can't speak to that department specifically, but on the whole, with all of our general government departments, they were able to turn back a whole bunch of money, and that's what really helped us, you know, close out FY20. So all of our general government departments are good about that. You know, they're not in a use it or lose it mentality. So.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's great, but it also at the same time gives you a little bit of cause for, hey, is there actually in some departments, do we have some
Over
you know,
budgeting.
additional funds
Yeah.
that are in there. I mean, you have to over budget to a certain extent, and I get that, because you don't know what's gonna happen.
But
Just like a
remember,
a maintenance line is a perfect example, you know?
but if I could just say, we did a spending freeze because we had
Thank
to,
you.
we had to get out of that financial crisis. So it wasn't that they were over budgeted. We put a freeze on spending. So on the general government side, we were able to turn back funds to help balance the budget. So that was critical.
Absolutely.
That's it.
That's it. All right, so here's the warrant, the end here.
Yep, so if I can just speak to the warrant a little bit. So you'll see now that $890,000, that's the new, lower amount of the total restorations that we're talking about. 3 articles, as we talked about before. The second one is paying unpaid bills from a prior year. And then the last one is the paying for a response time analysis for fire EMS in the event that we don't get it covered by the private developer. So what all these numbers reflect, similar to that very first sheet, except now this is updated to show what all the actual restorations are. And that one town clerk line is the only one that's actually going down again because of the savings from the town clerk salary.
Well, the math looks good.
Excellent.
Reporting is terrific.
Um, all right, so one. Trying to say, oh, there's the school. So schools is the 689, the 295, 300 is the town. The total is 985 minus the 95 for the assessments. It's 890, 044.
Right.
So any questions on, I assume at this point you want us to vote on this stuff?
Yes, please.
All right. Does anybody have any questions or any more conversation around this particular town meeting warrant article?
Article 1, you mean?
Article 1?
I'd make a motion to approve Article 1.
I'll second it.
Okay, so let's make a motion for Article 1. And Bobby, if you're gonna make the motion, let's include the dollars here. So the
All right.
985, 112, the 95,000 to state and county assessments, and the 890. Is that the right way to do it, Deb? Biz?
I would just vote the net increase in appropriation at the 890,044. You don't have to be any more specific
See?
than that.
That's why I like you on those calls. You make things easier. right, so- All right, Bobby, here
All
you
right,
go.
make a motion for Article 1 for 890,44.
I'll second
I
that.
want to say
890.
890,044.
890,000.
$890,044.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Good. All right, so that is approved. Thank you very much. Let's go to Article 2. This is a list of the unpaid bills.
There was one addition, John, and that was the Coventa that I mentioned to you last meeting
Mhm.
for the 8,056.11.
Right.
Board of Health.
And these are all to be paid from the current year's budget. So there is no appropriation with this. It's the approval to spend these bills which are prior year.
Okay, so it's spending current year budget money on last year's bills.
Correct. And that would be the motion.
Now, I got a question on, at the bottom, the System Support Corp.
Mhm.
What is that?
Well, what happened is a lot of this is computer services for the police department. And with everybody being a little bit busy in the last 3 months of the fiscal year, these got overlooked. They weren't encumbered, which is standard. Any bills that are outstanding at June 30 for that year, you have to encumber to the town accountant by July 15th. So everything you see here was missed for one reason or another. So we're just trying to make sure that we can get these vendors paid in a reasonable amount of time. It is standard last year.
But
Everybody did
it-
great.
What I'm saying is it's for computer stuff. Because it
Yes.
says
Yep.
sundries and supplies.
Correct. What I did here so that there's no question of where it's being charged to
Yeah,
is you have the vendor name, et cetera, and the actual account number from the general ledger or from the expenditures that is used that they charged to. So they don't have a specific computer line. A lot of departments have what's called sundries and supplies,
right.
and that's
Yeah.
where they typically charge this to.
Okay. All right.
Okay? Okay.
Um,
Do we
So-
have a total on this? Is it further down?
There is no total needed on this one, Julie. What
Okay.
you're gonna do is, the motion would be to approve the
As
town
written.
accountant to pay last year, unpaid bills for prior year and out of this year's budget, out of 2021 budget, because there's no dollars involved. We aren't transferring anything, we aren't reappropriating. Did that make sense?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
So with that, and if you trace it back, as we talked about earlier, last year, some of these departments were able to turn in money, the freeze on spending, et cetera, et cetera. This is another part of what contributed to us being able to turn in some money from last year's budget, was the fact that we had, in a weird sort of way, we weren't billed in time to include them in last year's, but to pay them out of last year's budget, and they rolled forward to this year's budget, even though they're last year's expenses. So it's kind of the tick and tack of how it all works with town government. So,
And it's also to remind departments that they have an obligation to get their bills in a timely fashion. So that's part of the reason it's an auditing function, but you also want the departments to be aware of what they need to do.
Right, yeah, because these are a lot of unpaid bills. I haven't seen this many in years.
And like,
Usually one or two, but,
right, last year we didn't have any at all.
right.
And I think with all the pandemic stuff, the town hall
All
not
the
being fully
crazy
staffed,
stuff going
departments not being staffed, things just kind of got lost in translation. And it happens, there's no, it just is what it is.
Yeah,
But as we go into the rest of the fiscal year, these departments, their budgets will be watched closely to ensure that they aren't overextending their budgets.
all right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the use of current fiscal year funds to pay last fiscal year's remaining bills that were income.
I'll make the motion to approve Article 2. So the accountant can pay previous bills with this year's money.
Mhm.
I have a motion to approve,
Second,
a second from Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Trying to do split screen here, so it's a little bit,
Mm.
can't tell for sure. All right, that's a vote. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. All right, Article 3, we've gone over this before, the 25,000. Again, the expectation is that we're gonna get a developer to foot the bill on this, but we do have to have money earmarked for this. The nice thing about this, again, and correct me if I'm wrong, Biz, but this money is, once it's in this article, will be earmarked for this. So if it is not, if we don't need to use it, then that money will flow back into the general fund when we do our free cash at the next town meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct. Unless at some point it needs to be at the next town meeting in the spring, if we have to appropriate it out for another reason. But it should close to the free cash.
Yeah, to your point, exactly correct. If we
Mhm.
put through a end of year transfers or whatever to move things out of an
Correct.
article, that would be one other place to put it as well. So,
And John, if I
Correct.
could just interrupt, it's also possible that if I get the check in hand before town meeting, we can just simply pass over this article at town meeting. And we would just get a donation from the developer, which would be used for this purpose. So
that would be good, because I'm guessing there's going to be at least 15 minutes worth of conversation about this one.
so hopefully that's what'll happen, but just in case, that's why it's here.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve Article 3.
I'll make a motion to approve Article 3. $25,000 for response time analysis for the fire department.
I have a motion,
I'll second it.
a second from Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, good stuff. All right, that is our warrant. This now. Have the other thing. up too.
Do we have any transfers, Biz?
No, sir.
All right.
Eh,
I told you I'm not transferring unless I have to.
You gotta get the little sign on your desk, Biz. The buck stops here.
Oh, they already know the bucket doesn't leave my desk.
Don't encourage her, please.
All right. All right. So with that, I'm going to move on to the revenue
Mhm.
comparison unless there's anything else that from a town perspective, you guys wanted to go over.
Fine with me.
Okay. So Johnny, you ready for the revenue? I can share my screen?
If you want, yeah, if you want to share your screen, that'd be great. Yeah, that's fine.
Sure.
I am trying to set it up for me, but that's fine.
No, I got it right here. We should be good. Let's see, can everybody see that okay?
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of move everybody out of the way.
A little
All
small.
right, so here, what'd you say? It's a little small?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
okay, I might be able to make it bigger, but if I make it bigger, we might lose a little bit of data, but let me give it a shot, okay? Let's see. Oops, that's too big. Hold on.
That's good right there.
That's good there? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so if this is good, we'll start at the top, which is the property taxes. What I did is I took the revenue for the first 3 months of fiscal 20, which ended September 30, 2019, and the first 3 months of this fiscal year ending September 30, 2020. Our real estate tax is up slightly over last year, but we also have to remember that we also had our tax increase during the year, et cetera. So our collections are pretty much doing okay at that. The next one is our motor vehicle taxes, which are up slightly. On the motor vehicle excise tax, we all have to be aware that some of these revenues that we are getting right now, these were revenues that we did not collect at the end of fiscal year 20. So with the motor vehicle excise, we all know you can't get your license renewed, you can't get your plate renewed, et cetera, unless you've paid. So this is kind of something that we have to get. I just think there was a little bit of delay from last year to this year. We get down to the meals tax. The meals tax, we lowered our budget on purpose to 150,000, which was probably prudent at the time. And we brought in 54,000, which is 24,000 less than last year, but we did have a bigger budget. And with this, included in the 54,000 is revenues from April, May, June, July, and August. So there's 5 months worth of revenues in there. I just want people to be aware of that. So overall, we are pretty much down 31%. And the local receipts are the ones that can cause a community the most trouble when they're not being recorded.
So Biz, when you were making your adjustments, how do you feel that compares? Is like, this seems like an obvious area that you probably were like, we're probably not going to do that well if the economy's closed. We're not going to get meals or rooms and things like
Correct.
that. But do you feel like this is pretty much in line with what you expected?
I think at the 54,000, we could be okay with that, depending on how the dining continues, as long as the economy doesn't shut down again. My biggest concern is this section is the rooms tax. We did not receive any rooms tax. Now, this could be from just basically a delay from the state, but it is disconcerting because last year at this time, we brought in almost 200,000.
You know,
Yes.
Biz, have we accrued room tax? Is it a situation where the money's there, it's been paid, it just hasn't gotten to us?
I'm going to say there is some room tax at the state level. that we just haven't received it yet. But I wouldn't expect a lot of money because the pandemic, most people stayed home. No one went to hotels. We know that the collector's office is working with one hotel to make out a tax payment plan. So if that particular hotel is having problems with their tax plan, then they aren't collecting the room tax either. So these are just things that we want to bear in mind, the trickle down effect of the economy. So that is a concern. I'll keep an eye on that and see what else may have come in. As I told you, we did get cannabis revenue in. So we got in $1,113. That was our first deposit from this new revenue. I don't know how much that will go up because I don't really know enough about it to make a
But-
educated.
Did you budget it? Did you budget a number for that one for FY20?
You cannot budget it.
Right.
And the reason that you can't budget it is you cannot budget for something you haven't received prior revenue for.
Yeah.
So let's say we get into December, we're doing our budgets. All right, well, we know we got in $5,000 for the first 3 months. It wouldn't be unreasonable to project $15,000 for the fiscal year. So things like that you have to look at, and you can only put in historically what's there, and DOR won't let us do anything else. Here, as we get down to penalties and interest,
Sorry, Biz, how long have they been, were they open during this time period? So that $1,100, was that for a month and a half, or is that for the 5 months?
I believe it's probably for about a month and
Okay.
a half. Okay, they opened, I believe, sometime in August. So it'd be August and September, month and a half.
And if I can just jump on that too, they essentially just did like a soft opening. So I don't think this number, I don't think is really predictive of anything yet. I think we're gonna need to wait and see. It should be some good money.
Yeah, it's
Do
only about
they-
18,000 in sales.
Do they
Right.
pay that directly to Rockland, or do they pay that up through the state and it trickles down through to us?
Right, there's a state tax and there's a local tax, so it trickles down to us, our share of the revenue.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
you're welcome. Penalties and interest, it's a good thing, bad thing. Some of our interest is up. I mean, if you look at the motor vehicle interest, that's up, but that's again because it's tied to the registries, et cetera. People had to go get their licenses late, so they had fines and fees they had to pay. The real estate interest is up, good and bad. It means we're getting paid, but it also means that people are paying late due to the economy. Let's see, what was one of the big ones there? The tax title interest and fees, that's down considerably because we haven't received a lot of tax title payments yet. Because of the economy, it will probably be delayed as people are trying to figure out how to put food on their tables and pay their mortgages, et cetera. So as we go down a little bit farther, I did put percentages to the sides. So the overall interest and penalties is up 24% in the aggregate for that section. Payment in lieu of taxes, we usually don't get anything on that until the end of the fiscal year. I do have to dive into that one because that may just be posted in the wrong line, and I'll correct that if need be. The trailer park or the mobile home parks, that's standard. They get a set fee each year, like a permit fee. So that's equivalent to what we collected last year. Good news here, sort of, trash liens are up a little bit. Our revenue is up on the trash as well as the extra totes. We charged for extra totes, but it wasn't being separated out on the revenue side, so we thought it was important to separate it out. The good news is the trash revenue is up 6.1%. The bad news is we increased the rates by 10% for fiscal year 21. So it may be up, but it's not up as much as it should be. So that's another one of the things that we're lagging in payments on.
Now, does that reflect, are we not charging enough for
Oh, no,
for trash?
we went through and we did a full rate analysis for the 21 budget. So the trash went from $74 to $82 roughly, or $84 from 21 to from 20 to 21. There's a substantial increase to bring the trash in line with the charges. And the reason for that was the substantial increase that the town got for the expenses that we're facing. So there was a complete
So you're
rate
saying
analysis.
despite the increase, we're running about 4% behind
Yeah,
the increases in cost.
right. I'm a little bit concerned on that. 6% above last year is good, but we just kind of want to keep an eye on that and make sure it doesn't go out of whack. And then some of these revenues that we're not collecting will end up going to tax title. And again, tax title means a delay in payment. Fees. This is kind of, a lot of this is due to the town hall being closed because people aren't coming in, getting copies of maps, and freedom of information requests are down considerably. But one of my concerns, if you look at this, is, well, not a concern. Firearms permits are up, but that's due to the situations that's going on in the country right now. That's a huge increase over last year. The town clerk fees are down somewhat. Again, Freedom of Information Act is usually where all the fees goes into the town clerks. So we didn't have as many Freedom of Information requests this year so far, due to circumstances. One of the other things here, yeah, primarily just all inside town hall revenues are a little bit skewed, and the more people come in, the better it will get. What we did do starting this year is we're starting to segregate out the planning board fees, the conservation fees, and the zoning fees, because they were all lumped in with the town clerk fee. So you couldn't really see what was going on in these departments and what type of contribution they were making to the town. So we separated those out to make it a little bit clearer. Medicaid reimbursement, the first one you see here under departmental revenues, that's the school department. As we all know, last year was a little bit of a challenge for them. They did make up for it by the end of the fiscal year. So far this year, they've collected $14,000. I believe we'll be on target to collect the $100,000 for the fiscal year, but I wouldn't anticipate much more than that. Ambulance collections are up quite a bit over last year, but again, due to the pandemic, unfortunately, we have more people requiring services.
Are those actual collections for the ambulance, or is that they're charged, what they end up writing off and all of that?
No, this is the net revenue. So
Okay.
the insurance company, we bill the insurance company 200, they'll pay us 100. So
Yeah.
this is, yeah, there's a difference
This is
between
the
their,
collection of all those hundreds.
correct, collection of all
Okay.
those hundreds, absolutely. Also, you see a Medicaid ambulance line there. That's a special revenue. It has nothing to do with ambulance collections, but it has to do with special revenue that the chief can apply for each year. Last year, I think we got 108,000. We are expecting some reimbursements this year, but it's not something you can budget for because it's an unknown. It's very variable. So as we're getting down lower, my concern here, which has to do with permits, is the building permits. The revenue for the building permits is down $36,000 or 46%, which is a lot of money. And if you look below that, you'll see that some of the revenues for the wiring inspector are up a little bit. And who's this one? The gas inspector. But those revenues being up, I believe, are leftovers from last year when we couldn't go out and do the inspections. And now we're getting in some of that leave over inspection money. So our building permits are down. So that's going to have a trickle down effect as we get into the other permitting avenues for buildings.
So the assessor, last time we had Deb in,
Yeah.
we talked a little bit about new housing starts and things like that. Is that going hand in hand with the assessor's office, that new housing builds, things like that are behind?
Well, Deb's new growth was budgeted at 200,000. But your permits, she can't project how many permits are going to be coming in for someone who wants to build a new house, or someone who wants to do new construction, or you want to put an addition on your house. That's no control over the assessors. That's more through the building permit aspect. Once the permits go into the system and the work in progress is going on, then it goes to new growth, but it doesn't go to new growth yet. So yes, essentially what's happening here will have an impact on new growth for next year. Okay, so that's a concern. So overall fees and permits are license and permits, I'm sorry, are down 36%. And it's not all bad news. We're getting to the end.
That's the good news.
Yeah. As we get to fines and forfeits, which is minimal anyway, library usually, brings in about $5,000 in fines. I do not believe that will be happening at all this year. And parking fines and violations, they usually come in the winter when people are parking, when it's a snow emergency situation, or the snow ban parking is in effect. Another one of my concerns here is the earnings on investment. We had originally said we were going to go for 250. By the time we finished our budgeting, we decided to drop it down to 200 on the COVID budget. But right now it looks like we're going to be down 13% over last year, which is a lot of money. So we're going to need to watch that. The feds have not increased the interest rates. So if the interest rates remain low, we may not get as much money as we have projected. So investment income is down 13%. These are just miscellaneous other revenues that you don't budget for. If you see the miscellaneous state revenue right here, which is roughly $5,000, $5,089, that is state revenue that we receive to offset some of the costs for the election. That's standard in a municipality. So it looks like we have an 18,000% increase there, but it's really negligible. Just throwing it out there. So once we take in all of the subtotal of the local receipts, our overall local receipts are down 2.5%. So considering all the variables we're looking at, 2.5% is not bad. Okay. And that's taking the variance, dividing out what happened at the end of last year. So it gives us a net of 2.5% negative, which, overall for the situation that, the world is in right now, that's not bad. State revenues, you'll see here, and this is the revised cherry sheet revenue, which nets out to the $890,000 increase that we had just realized on Doug's reports. And this is how we have collected the money so far. We've collected 3.7 million in 20, September 20, and 4 million in September 19. I am not too concerned about this at the moment, unless they give us another reduction in our revenues, because they did tell us they were only going to fund us what we got pretty much the year before. So we know that there's some fluctuation here that's going to come. It just hasn't shown up yet. It's not impacting our cash flow right now. Our cash flow is fine. So overall, that's the revenue projections. I know it's kind of a lot of information I threw at all of you. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Good.
Where's the VOTEC in this? I see the charter school.
The VOTEC does not come into this. We do not
they don't?
get, no,
Okay.
we don't get revenue from the state or anybody else for the
Oh.
VOTEC. We
Oh.
pay the VOTEC.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
if you think about it, Chapter 70 aid.
Yep. Okay.
So, okay.
All right. Sorry. Yep.
No problem. No problem.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Craig, did you have a question?
No, I don't always have questions, Biz.
Okay, I thought I saw you like that.
Nope.
I do have one comment question, I guess,
Sure.
is that
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier that we put a spending freeze on that helped us towards the end of last fiscal year. With these headwinds in this, presentation, I mean, you mentioned,
Mhm.
the permits are down. That's likely going to trickle into new growth. You know, we've got this uncertain world in meals and taxes and, you know, hotel taxes. Are we maintaining and keeping that spending freeze in place right now?
We can't put a spending freeze in place right now because we are at the beginning of our fiscal year. But every single department is being ultra conservative on what they're spending because they know the situation that the community's in. And it's not just the town of Rockland. There are 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts and 3 districts, and we're all in the same boat. So we're all taking the same approach to be conservative. But as we get further along, that is something that will be discussed with Doug. It's a Doug decision as to what we need to do to go forward as far as should we do a spending freeze? When do we do a spending freeze? And the state budget isn't done yet. So we're still bouncing the balls in the air,
And
you
if,
know.
if I can add to that too, John, you know, if you remember, we got a grant for $309,000 for the regional dispatch, and with the potential possibility of spending 25,000 of that, you know, we're setting it aside for just this very purpose to see how things shake out.
Right.
All
So
right,
it's
I think it's-
maintaining conservative.
Yeah, no, it's just challenging because if you broadcast it forward, and I think that the school department was talking about this when they gave their presentation, you know, this year is going to be tough, but if you look forward, it's going to roll into next year, the budget challenges. So just being ultra conservative as we continue to move forward is going to be important. So I think it's the right thing to do to restore these budgets with what we did, but at the same time, it's very it's a tenuous situation when revenue is so up in the air, and you know expenses are all over the place. Certainly more the expenses are all over the place in the schools because they're trying to do this hybrid model. Just in general, it's going to make it tough. So just wanted to bring that up. I think it's worthwhile. I mean, understanding how the revenue's coming in, and this is probably it feels like to me this is kind of what I thought it might be is that we're trending okay, but not, you know, I wouldn't call it fantastic by any stretch.
Bye.
But seeing where the concerns are is helpful.
Are we set with the screen and I can stop the share?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right. That was really, really good. Yes, that was really helpful. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you,
You're
Biz.
welcome. Thank you.
Now, Doug, every year, could you put it like, say, the last 2 months of the fiscal year, could you put a spending freeze on? Could we do that for the next few years? So we can, you know, money, because 10, 15 years ago, come the end of the year, everybody just spends whatever they have left over, you know?
I mean, so like technically, sure, we could do it, you know, at any time. I mean, but you know, we don't want to disrupt operations too much. You know what I mean? And remember, we're only 30% of the town budget, you know, so it's we're a small piece of the big picture. But you know, we're going to do what we got to do to balance the budget because we have to have a balanced budget. And you know, we took hard actions. We furloughed people. We did spending freezes. We did what we had to do. You know, we returned money back. So we'll do what we have to do. But I wouldn't want to arbitrarily start like setting that up ahead of time because then our operations get really mucked up.
And what you do when you do something like that is you stop putting fear into people. Well, I'm not going to spend the last 2 months a year. I'm going to spend it right now. So you have to, you know, weigh your options both ways. What's the best way to handle it? But from what I've seen so far, the town of Rockland department heads are extremely responsible. I've seen no one go out to rush to spend their budgets.
Okay.
So I think that that's a good thing, but variables happen every year. We may have some extra road work that needs to be done where Dave sent back 50 last year, but he can't spend, can't send it back this year. So there's everyday variables you have to take into account as well.
Yeah. No, I think this is really good information for us to understand kind of where we're at. And hopefully it'll help us ask better questions as we get further on too, which is part of the reason why I ask you guys to share as much information as we do. So All right, with that, go ahead.
Sorry, John, could I ask one more question? Are
Go
we
ahead, Craig.
fully staffed? Are we back to capacity with all the furloughs are back in place? And are we missing anybody from retirements? Like whatever happened, the sewer commissioner was retiring. I thought the librarian was retiring and all that. Did we replace them?
Yep, so I can speak to that. So in the sewer department, Dave Taylor is the acting sort of interim sewer superintendent. They've gone out and advertised and they're receiving resumes and applications now. So Dave Taylor
Okay.
is helping out on an interim basis. They're in the process of filling that position. The library, they are in the process of appointing a new library director. It is someone, I believe, internal. So I don't know if or when they'll plan on backfilling that position or not, but I know it has not happened yet. In the tax collector's office, we had a clerical position, the person that worked at the window. We scaled that position down to part-time. And then after that, that person ended up leaving for other full-time employment. So we have that budgeted as a part-time position, but we haven't filled it yet. So that's something we're, being cautious with. At the Council on Aging, there was a retirement which we had left for a clerical secretarial position, which we had left vacant for a bit. I believe we are going to be filling that position because they are now ramping back up with some smaller scale programs. And I think that's about it. I think everything else is up to full staffing.
Great,
Hope that helps.
thank you.
Yep.
Julie, just checking to see if you're okay. Your head was hanging down for too long there.
I'm listening.
Sorry.
I have that effect on people. I talk and they just nod off. Sorry.
Usually I'm writing, but I was listening.
So are there any other questions on any of the revenues or?
No.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so I appreciate that. I think on the agenda, what we have left is to review the minutes and then just have some roundtable discussions. Just to review to the, but up in front of me, I should have it burned into my mind, but I'm looking for the date of the special town meeting is November
16th.
16.
November 16th, okay. So our next meeting will be obviously November 16th. We will meet, is it gonna start at 7, Doug?
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna meet at 6:30 in the
Cafeteria.
cafeteria. We might have to have COVID approved sandwiches or something like that. I'll let Tommy figure that out. But November 16th at 7 p.m. We'll meet at 6:30. We'll capture any last minute changes or if we need a vote or whatever it is at that point. Other than that, we'll be ready to go into town meeting. Okay,
Sounds good.
perfect. So Doug, Biz, if you guys want to stick around, you can. If you want to drop off, you can. I know you've had long days. But thank you for everything. All right. So Julie, you have some notes here, I believe.
Yeah, I had sent you the last two meetings. And you sent them out today,
12th of August, 23rd September.
right? 23rd September and October 15th. Last
Oh,
week.
I didn't see those. Oh, okay.
All right, I will share my screen. There we go. So this is September 23rd.
Yeah.
Okay, goes over Dr. Cron. Let's see who wasn't in. Absent was Sheila and Dan, so no votes from, no vote from Dan anyway, but Sheila, sorry, you're sidelines for this one. Okay. We have some motions, things like that about positions, things like that. Any questions on the notes for the minutes for September 23rd? Okay,
Nope.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as written for September 23rd.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of September 23rd.
Okay, we got Joe as a motion,
Second.
second from Lori.
Mhm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Much that's that. Next one here, this is minutes from I just opened the, oh, maybe it's this one.
October 15th.
August 12th is what I see.
No,
No.
we approved those on the minutes of the 23rd.
Yeah, October 15th, John.
I didn't see that email, sorry.
So I'm looking at I'm looking at the notes that I sent out, Julie, on 10/20 last night.
Yeah.
And I had minutes from September 23rd and August 12th. Did you send me the September, the October one?
August 12th is a misprint. It should be October 15th.
Okay, so you're saying
What
that
day did you
the,
send them to them?
so the content
Yesterday,
is right.
yes.
I gotta get back to where I was. All right, so August 12th, so we can change this one here. You guys still see my screen?
Mhm.
Yeah. We approved the August 12th on the 23rd of September.
Right.
No, I know. This,
Oh,
what
okay.
she's,
The date's wrong. It's October 15th.
it's supposed to be October 15th, right?
Oh, the date on this is just wrong. Is that
Yeah,
what you're
Right.
saying?
Date
Yeah.
on the email. That
No.
information that you're showing right now is accurate for August 12th. That has nothing to do with October.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this doesn't look like,
yeah.
all right, so I'm at a loss then, Julie. I got September 23rd, which we voted. And I don't see October 15th. So do you want to go back and redo those and send them out? The next one?
Yeah, I'll send the October 15th out again. Can I
Perfect.
send it out from here?
If you have them available real quick, you could
If
probably.
if you have them available, I can bring them up. If you want to just email them to the Rockland Finance Committee email. Or email to me. It doesn't matter to me, whatever's easier for you.
Okay.
In the meantime,
I gotta get out of your screen though. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, here we go.
hold your alt down and just press tab and it should bounce you out. So, Bill, you said that meeting was going to be for ATFC. That's what's going to be Thursday this week? Or is there, actually, there's a meeting supposed to be tonight, I think, Bill, right? No,
Meeting for what?
for the ATFC?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I remember talking about it. Or is that tomorrow night?
Yeah, I may have the date written down here wrong. I have November 16th and I thought I had October 21st. But, all right, so we'll get back to that. We'll come through with that. And we mentioned assignments for liaisons. As I said, we'll pick that up after the special town meeting. So that'll be how we'll handle that. That'll be something that we'll think about between now and then, and we'll go ahead and we'll work on that at the town. We'll go to the special town meeting. Julie, did you say you sent that to me or no?
No, I can't get out of the screen.
If you just minimize the screen, this whole screen, you should see your Outlook. You can find it. You won't lose if you just minimize the meeting.
Okay.
We still see you though.
See you.
No, I'm not gonna hold everybody up trying to figure this one out. Okay, keep on top. View options. Big screen.
Wake up, Craig.
I'm alive.
There you go.
Okay, we'll get it next time.
Yeah,
we
that's
can do
fine.
it at the town meeting.
There you go. We'll have something to look forward to. All right, any further comments, questions, input?
No,
Yeah, I think that we, just in general, I think it was good to have the revenue review.
No,
And
it looked good. I mean, I think considering all things
Yeah.
considered.
all things considered, there's, the big numbers, the big movers are there. One of the things I forgot to ask her that I do want to get into is how we're doing, if there's a number that can define or split commercial versus residential revenue. Because I really feel like, businesses in general in town are struggling, and we're not going to see the tax revenues from some of them. And that's going to be kind of a challenge.
Yeah, and most of the residentials are coming out of escrows.
Yeah.
Anyway,
right.
Yeah. We don't have, not having a grocery store and like a Walmart or a Target. I mean, those businesses help substantially for revenue, and all those businesses have done pretty well, in my opinion, throughout this whole pandemic. So I feel like there's, the businesses that we do have in town, we're pretty heavy on the meals tax and stuff like that. So it makes it a challenge. But I guess we can all look forward to some revenue from the marriage of one. All right. Well, anyway, any other questions?
hey,
Otherwise,
can I ask a quick question off topic?
go ahead.
I probably should have when Doug was here. Zero Pond Street, the development over there, and a Concord Street development. It looks like they're going forward with those with the developer. They're going to approve them, but our store is at capacity, water's at capacity. I mean, even though we don't fulfill our 40B requirements, the state can overrule us and allow them. But can they still allow them if we don't have water and sewer resources to provide these things? Can't we?
I know one thing, Joe, when it comes to contractors, their some of their permitting and things that they do, they have to offset. At least in Weymouth's always had a water problem. They have to offset. So it's like, yeah, you can build it, but you have to offset the water that you're going to consume, et cetera. I don't know if that's part of the negotiations, but that could be part of the conversation where they have to buy so many reduction water toilets or something,
I just see a lot of people complaining about it and saying, why we build it if we don't have water and sewer?
John, that's exactly what the sewer commissioner was saying last year when I went to the liaison meeting, was that he had negotiated a pretty good deal with the builder at Zero Pond to help fix one of the pumping stations over there. And then they have to do that exact thing of conserve and fix and help detect where they're taking out whatever it is, say 100,000 gallons of water or 50,000 gallons of water. They have to improve the system by 50,000 gallons a day so that they can take that water back out of it. So it's a net neutral or better from when they started if they weren't there. So
all right, so there is some negotiations going on, and
yeah, there is.
And can I just add one thing to that, Joe, if I can? Craig was right. There's measures in place that the sewer department's done for a long time. They refer to it as I&I, inflow and infiltration. So you know, if we're at capacity, developers, there's a whole formula that the federal government, the EPA and the DEP, you know, have signed off on in our consent decree, that they do calculations with flows, and then there's dollar amounts that get calculated based on flow and bedroom. And that money gets used to essentially fix cracks in the pipes and fix manhole covers and things where all this inflow and infiltration is coming in. And when you remake those repairs, it frees up, you know, the necessary capacity. But the bigger point, I think, to your question is, when it's a 40B affordable housing project, the town really can't deny them. If they deny them, or if they put so many conditions on them that it makes it economically unfeasible, they go to the state, they go to the Housing Appeals Committee, and the towns lose every single time. So the better way to deal with it, the better way.
And that would be, that would include if we overburden them on some of the negotiations that
Exactly.
Craig was just talking about, or the water.
Exactly, because that's, and what happens is they go to the Housing Appeals Committee, and what they will argue is that the town has made the project, this is the specific words, economically unfeasible, and towns aren't allowed to do that. And so what happens is, if you go too far, then the state just overturns it or remains it back, and then you essentially lose all your leverage. So, you know, you want to strike the right balance to get as many of the impacts mitigated as you can. But that's
So
the state's 40B law, which encourages affordable housing until we get to that safe harbor, which after this one gets done, we will be in that safe harbor, and then we won't be in this situation for a long time.
I mean, I know we want the tax revenues, but even though it's going to put a burden on the schools, but at least what Craig said, we're doing minimal, at least some negotiations and getting some money back for the infrastructure.
Yep.
There, so,
Yeah,
all right.
that's true. So I just wanted to mention that.
Doug, that was a lot of words to say Craig was right.
There you go. Greg was right.
Craig was
I'll do that next time.
right.
All right, guys. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay,
I'll second that.
a motion and a second, all in favor?
Yeah, some names.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone. Julie, that
Joe-
was
Joe seconded.
Bobby and then Joe.
Let's hope I can bring some food to 16th.
Yeah,
Oh, just bring it. Just
bring us-
bring it.
Full Happy Meals. That way it's all separate.
Individually wrapped sandwiches.
all right.
Bye, guys. Thanks, you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right, have a
All
good
right.
night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Right.